from the 732, clearly LVE is next up because when healthy, the defense naturally plays better. Without him, they struggle. That is a big, giant if. In the last 2 years, he has played a total of 19 games, and his tackle numbers don't match what he had in his rookie season. Like, what the Cowboys have to figure out right now is whether or not they are going to pick up the fifth-year option. So, by the way, for LVE, because I think that's where some of the questions will start to be now, you have to decide by May 3rd is the deadline for LVE whether to pick up his option. And based on the fact that he's been a Pro Bowler and an All-Pro and where he was drafted, I believe that the option's going to be somewhere around $13 million.
Yeah.
So even
wait, are you sure? Let me text Jeff. He's really good with this stuff. For some reason, I think he said these numbers that we're a little bit high on those fifth-year option numbers.
Okay, I thought there were some triggers in there that if you had made the All-Pro or Pro Bowl.
It's like if you're a top
10. If you're a top 10 pick, I know it's higher, but I thought there were triggers in there that if you had made the Pro Bowl, All-Pro, etc., that it could bump up your value. So I think it's $13 million, but Jeff is really in tune with the cap as well. If it's lower, I definitely want to know.
I would pick up the 1 year $13 million.
Okay.
As of right now, because you're going to have to do it right now, right? I mean, you're not going to get another game to see what he can
and you can't.
It is
like the deadline's May 3rd.
Jeff said you're right. It is around $13 million for his fifth-year option because he did make a Pro Bowl.
Okay.
So I would say yes, I would pick that up. But right now, I would say no to like a 5-year contract for, let's just say, $13 million a year. What is that? $70 million?
Yeah, for 5 years would be 65. Yeah.
Okay, so somewhere around there, he would probably want 5 for 70 with 40 guaranteed.
No way.
Can't do that yet.
No,
I can't. Now, if this year he plays all 17 games, I guess we got to pound into our head that it's going to be 17 games and not 16. Is if he plays all 17 games, and I get that there's going to be dings and you're not going to be totally healthy, but you play in all 17 and you provide, a good game for pretty much all 17 games, that changes my mind. As people will say, we can't change our mind. If we thought Zeke was good in 2016, we have to say he's good now. Which is really weird that people believe that, but, opinions change based on what they recently do. And so I could change on LVE, but right now I do not want to pay him a long-term contract.
And even if you did, like you said, the option would only be picked up for 22. For people who say cut him, that doesn't make any financial sense. You still have him on the rookie deal for this year. So at the linebacking core, then, nobody to pay. At the defensive line, nobody. So you find yourself in this instance where, at least for it appears, let's just say 2 years, because you don't know how the ensuing rookie classes, and you don't know if you're going to be on the hook for Diggs in a couple of years or Lamb or whatever. Let's just say for the next 2 years, it looks like you don't really have anybody that you need to pay outside of what you feel about Michael Gallup. Do you think that could change what the Cowboys do in terms of free agency? Because somebody just asked about Bud Dupree. We talked about that yesterday. Do you think that will change what the Cowboys do in free agency, or could potentially, knowing their strategy of keeping their own, shouldn't cost them as much as usual?
Kevin, this is why I think this is a great topic, is usually when the Cowboys have signed whoever it was. Obviously, you had Dak pending on Ezekiel Elliott and Jalen Smith and DeMarcus Lawrence. And you had, when DeMarcus Lawrence signed, you had pending. I guess Zeke was never really on that list. But you had people pending, whether it was La'el Collins, whether it was whoever it was. You were looking at, hey, we're giving this money, but look, we got these other guys coming up too. Now you have nobody coming up. Now, for the most part, you don't really have to worry of, we have to create money for these good players on our team. You have now paid all good players on your team, and I get that Gallup and Leighton Vander Esch are good. I don't want to say they're not good, but they're not guys that I have to keep, and so maybe in this offseason, the Cowboys do look into free agency because they do not have any pending free agents after the 2021 season that they actually want to keep.
A couple of people, I see it from the 817, from the 940. Randy Gregory is an interesting one. I'm going to table that one for a second because that is complicated. Aldon Smith, if you look at the first, check this
over
out.
30 years old.
Yeah, so he is actually will turn 32 at the start of the season.
We're not giving a long-term contract to an old fart like that. I mean, good. He came back. Great. He looks like he gets his life together. I ain't paying old farts 3-year and 4-year contracts.
Here's a great example of why Aldon Smith is, I mean, if you want to bring him back, that's fine. But he doesn't matter in terms of like big money deals. The first 3 games of the season, Aldon Smith had 20 tackles and 4 sacks. So remember those numbers, 20 tackles and 4 sacks. The rest of the entire season, 28 tackles and 1 sack. So, like, he came out like a man possessed in those first 3 games. And then from there, he didn't matter for most of the regular season. If you want to bring him back because you believe an off season will help and he'll get better and all, like, right on. I'm all about that. But he's not going to cost you any money at all. And then I wonder about Randy Gregory. It's the same thing, is if you want to keep him, which the Cowboys clearly love him as a human, and it seems like they really like him as a player. I just wonder about what kind of long-term commitment you would ever really be able to make to Randy Gregory. I know the issue that he dealt with marijuana is it doesn't matter in the NFL anymore, but I do still wonder how much they would commit to him long-term.
I don't mind signing Randy Gregory to a long-term contract, but
Sure.
I'm not worried about it. Just like if the Cowboys sign Michael Gallup to a 4-year, $40 million contract, that's good. He's a good player. It's a good contract. But I think if you lose Michael Gallup, if you lose Randy Gregory, it's not like losing Dak Prescott, Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb. Go to the 3 offensive linemen right now, your 2 tackles and your guard. I know DeMarcus Lawrence isn't your tank anymore, but if you lost DeMarcus Lawrence for the season, the way that if I say Michael Gallup's lost for the season, he just tore his ACL, he can't play. And you're like, dang, that's not good. That we would like to have our third receiver healthy and putting up 800 to 1,000 yards and 5 to 7 touchdowns. But we can survive. Cedric Wilson is good enough to step into that role. I don't know if Noah Brown is a free agent or not, but we could draft a dude in the 4th round too that becomes our 4th wide receiver that we like. But if we lost DeMarcus Lawrence, the defense is already bad. But if DeMarcus Lawrence tears his ACL and he can't play this year, now I'm changing my record prediction. Because I'm like, man, he's like our only guy that I feel like is reliable on the defensive line.